Austin's skyline fades in. Distant police sirens grow louder. Cut to shaky body cam footage, officers shouting. Freeze frame. Narrator. In the heart of Austin, Texas, a city known for music innovation and activism, an incident unfolded that would leave the public stunned and divided. A man in a wheelchair holding what looked like a pistol was shot by police. The firearm turned out to be a BB gun. But before we rush to conclusions, we need to understand what actually happened. This isn't a story just about police or suspects. It's a story about perception, split-second decisions, and a system that often demands the impossible. In this video, we'll examine every angle of the incident, pull from real-life parallels, and ask the difficult questions. Was the shooting justified? Could it have been prevented? And what does it say about policing in America today? The moment that changed everything, dispatch audio overlay begins. Your incident has been updated. I got eyes on them. It was just after 4 p.m. when officers responded to a 911 call describing a man in a wheelchair brandishing what appeared to be a handgun near William Cannon Drive. Officers were told the weapon looked real, and the man had allegedly pointed it at people. As the officers arrived, they spotted the man slowly rolling down the sidewalk. From a distance, a black object was visible on his lap. The closer they got, the more the tension escalated. Officer's voice. There's what appears to be a black pistol in his lap. He tried covering it up when he saw me. From this moment on, the situation turned critical. The officers issued multiple commands. Stop, sir. Put your hands up. Drop the gun. Yet the man didn't comply. Commentary. When a suspect doesn't follow commands, especially while holding what appears to be a weapon, officers are trained to treat the situation as a potential lethal threat. In this case, the officers couldn't know whether the gun was real or fake. They had seconds to decide. Let's break this down from a tactical perspective. Visibility. The man was in the open but seated low to the ground. Mobility. Though in a wheelchair, he was still moving and potentially able to fire. Non-compliance. He ignored repeated clear commands to stop and disarm. As one officer got closer, he took the shot. The man fell. Officers advanced, keeping a wide perimeter. They found a BB gun beneath the man's body. What officers knew and what they didn't. In critical incidents like these, understanding what an officer knew at the moment matters more than what we learned after the fact. Bodycam footage shows the object looked almost identical to a semi-automatic pistol. The replica didn't have the orange tip typically used on toy guns, and in the chaos, no officer had time to inspect it. This raises a key issue: reasonable perception. Under Graham v. Connor, a landmark Supreme Court case, officers are judged by whether their actions were objectively reasonable, given the circumstances, not by hindsight. Commentary. In the past decade, officers have been shot and killed by suspects faking surrender. Many departments now emphasize action beats reaction, the idea that if a suspect is holding a weapon, they can fire before an officer has time to react. In 2018, an officer in Ohio was shot by a man hiding a gun in his waistband after pretending to be unarmed. This incident shaped policy around suspect engagement. It's not paranoia, it's survival. Still, this was a man in a wheelchair. The optics were explosive. Community reaction news of the shooting spread quickly. Activists claimed the police should have de-escalated further. Disability rights advocates demanded reform in how officers engage with physically impaired individuals. The tension in the city grew. Policing disability, a national crisis. This incident is not isolated. Across America, police regularly encounter people with disabilities, both mental and physical. In many cases, these encounters turn deadly. According to a report by the Ruderman Family Foundation, 1/3 to 1/2 of all people killed by law enforcement have some form of disability. Real-life example. In 2015, San Francisco police shot and killed Mario Woods, a man suffering from mental illness, after he allegedly refused to drop a knife. The video caused national outrage. In the Austin case, critics ask, could the officers have used non-lethal force? Why not a taser? Why not negotiate longer? Analysis: tasers are not guaranteed to work, especially through thick clothing. Negotiation requires time, and when a visible weapon is present, officers are trained to neutralize the threat quickly. What if the man had fired first? The consequences could have been fatal for officers or bystanders. This is the tightrope police walk every day. Do they wait and risk lives or act and risk criticism? The aftermath. Trust, outrage, and investigation. After the shooting, the Austin Police Department launched a full internal investigation. Bodycam footage was released within days to maintain transparency. The chief of police held a press conference urging calm and vowing that facts, not emotion, would guide the review. Narrator. But the public wasn't patient. Protests erupted downtown. Signs read, "Wheelchairs, not war zones, and don't shoot disabled people." The debate quickly grew national. Cable news ran the story on a loop. Twitter ignited. Policy changes. In response, APD began updating their training to include enhanced de-escalation drills for disability encounters, more simulation training with mock weapons, crisis intervention training updates. So still many believe these steps were too late. Lessons from the incident. So what can we learn from this? First, that visibility and perception in police work are everything. Officers don't get time to verify weapon authenticity. They must make decisions based on appearance, behavior, and training. Second, that disability doesn't remove risk. A person in a wheelchair can still pull a trigger. The rules of engagement don't change drastically because of physical condition when there's a threat. Third, that communication and public trust are vital. The faster departments release footage and provide transparent updates, the more they protect their legitimacy. Commentary. This incident reveals just how fragile our systems are, how quickly a 911 call can become a national firestorm, and how deeply communities crave accountability. A balancing act, rights versus responsibilities. Scene transitions to a courtroom. Legal experts debate police response standards. The law gives officers the right to defend themselves and the public, but with that right comes immense responsibility. Narrator. We must ask, how do we equip officers to be guardians, not warriors? How do we reduce fatal encounters without compromising safety? Possible reforms include widespread adoption of real-time crisis negotiation teams, use of drone surveillance or audio hailing systems for standoff situations, better mental health funding to reduce 911 calls involving non-criminal crises. In the end, no single policy will prevent every tragedy, but each reform is a thread in a larger net, a net meant to catch people before they fall and protect everyone involved. Closing statement. This wasn't a clean case. It wasn't a clear villain versus hero story. It was a reflection of our fractured reality, one where trauma, fear, disability, and authority collide in the span of seconds. Let's not ignore it. Let's learn from it. Extended conclusion and community reflection. Narrator. In the months following the incident, the city of Austin remained deeply divided. Community town halls were held weekly. Some citizens defended the officer's decision, citing protocol and public safety. Others saw this as yet another case of excessive force, one that could have been avoided with better training or more humane tactics. Local newspapers published op-eds from disability rights groups, veterans, and former officers. The question lingered, what does reasonable look like in the eyes of the law, when life, mobility, and intent are all in question? Panel discussion clip voiceover. We can no longer afford a system that only works in hindsight. We need proactive, inclusive, and humane policing strategies now, especially for vulnerable populations. Statistical deep dive. Between 2010 and 2022, over 700 people with physical impairments were involved in police use of force cases nationwide. Over 30% of these resulted in serious injury or death. More than half involved replica firearms or tools mistaken for weapons. These aren't just numbers, they're stories. Stories of misjudged movement, misunderstood behavior, and misread intentions. Narrator. Our cities can't move forward if entire communities feel like they're being left behind or worse, treated as threats. And our officers deserve systems that support good decisions even under pressure. So what does the future look like? More police community engagement efforts, revised standards for responding to disability-related calls, continued emphasis on body cam transparency. We're not there yet, but every honest conversation, every policy reform, every life saved brings us closer. Final words. This case was never black and white. It was real life, complicated, painful, and important. And if we're paying attention, it might just help us write a better future.